13 Investigates has obtained a report from the Army revealing new information on the helicopter crash that killed 3 people at the U.S.-Mexico border in March.
Now, 2 of those people are National Guard members Casey Frankowski of Rensselaer and John Gracia III from Rotterdam. Jacob Pratt, also from Rensselaer, is the only survivor and is still in the hospital recovering from his injuries.
The Army's investigation into that horrific crash tells us what mission those soldiers were on and what roles they each played on board of that helicopter. Tessa Bentulin read through the entire 234-page report and explains what she's learned.
13 Investigates got this bulky report early last week, but decided to hold the story until today out of respect for the families. The Army is visiting the families of Frankowski and Gracia to go over and explain this investigation. This report is extremely detailed, but 13 Investigates received a heavily redacted version. It says this was a routine mission and it was supposed to be a low-risk mission.
John Gracia, Casey Frankowski, Jacob Pratt, and Chris Luna were all on board a UH-72A Lakota helicopter when it crashed in a farm field in La Grula, Texas on March 8th. The 234-page report from the Army states the crew's mission was to help Customs and Border Protection employees working along the border in the Rio Grande Valley. Gracia was the pilot in command. He was in charge of the helicopter. Frankowski was the pilot. She helps fly the aircraft. Their roles were similar to that of a pilot and co-pilot on an airplane. At 1:48 p.m., they flew out of South Texas International Airport in Edinburgh and landed at McAllen International Airport around 2 o'clock. The report states they had to pick up Luna from McAllen Airport for this mission. Luna was from Texas and worked as a Customs and Border Protection agent. Pratt's position on board was crew chief and aircraft mechanic. He is responsible for maintenance on the helicopter. At 2:05 p.m., the 4-person crew was in the air, doing as they were instructed, near La Grula. Almost 2 hours into the mission, the report says the helicopter went into an uncontrollable right-hand spin and crashed. The impact destroyed the helicopter. Gracia, Frankowski, and Luna died. Pratt has undergone countless surgeries and still in the hospital, recovering 6 months later.
This report also gives us a glimpse into what may have caused the helicopter to crash. I'll have that part of the story at 5 o'clock on News Channel 13. For 13 Investigates, I'm Tessa Bentulin.
For the first time, we're learning what exactly might have caused that deadly helicopter crash near our southern border 6 months ago.
The entire crash is intricately detailed in a report from the Army. It's more than 200 pages. 3 of the 4 people on board were National Guard members and from the Capital Region. Casey Frankowski, John Gracia III died from their injuries. Jacob Pratt is still in the hospital.
13 Investigates Tessa Bentulin. She read the entire thing, every single page, and joins us in the studio to explain what is believed to be the reason behind the crash.
The crash may have been caused by a mechanical issue. The tail rotor at the back of the helicopter looks to have been the problem. We don't know for certain if that's the cause of the crash because this 234-page report is heavily redacted.
It does mention an issue with the tail rotor on the helicopter on the second page of this report. Then on page 95, this instruction manual explains what could go wrong with a tail rotor while in flight and how to fix the problem. It states issues caused by the tail rotor continue to be a contributing factor to some accidents. Casey Frankowski and John Gracia were both pilots on this helicopter mission. The Department of the Air Force also describes the weather conditions on the day of this crash, March 8th. It shows there were no thunderstorms, no icing, and no rain in sight. There was a light to moderate chance of turbulence in the forecast, but the report states visibility was unrestricted.
What happened after the crash is tragic. Even though Rensselaer native Jacob Pratt is the only one who survived, there was one more person still alive after the helicopter crashed. I'll tell you that coming up at 6 o'clock on News Channel 13. For 13 Investigates, I'm Tessa Bentulin.
Oh, it's just so sad. Thank you, Tessa. Well, for more coverage on that story, including the full report, head to our website. That is at WNYT.com.
We're learning what happened just seconds after that helicopter crashed in a farm field in Texas, killing 3 of the 4 people on board. 2 of them were Casey Frankowski and John Gracia III from the Capital Region. The only person who survived is Rensselaer native Jacob Pratt. The helicopter crash is detailed in the Army's full death investigation report that 13 Investigates got through a records request. Tessa Bentulin has our top story.
The report says the assigned crew members were qualified to work in the helicopter. The report even includes the certifications and trainings Gracia and Frankowski both received as pilots. It also says they have to sign a document that outlines the risks associated with this mission, which is standard procedure.
Within 30 seconds of the helicopter crash in La Grula, Texas, U.S. Customs and Border Protection reported it and called for emergency help. Chief Warrant Officer John Gracia and Border Patrol Agent Chris Luna were declared dead on scene. Fellow National Guardsman Jacob Pratt was still in his seat, unable to move. Chief Warrant Officer Casey Frankowski was thrown out of the helicopter. The report says she was found 50 feet from the aircraft, but she was still alive. It notes she was not wearing a seatbelt at the time of the crash. The Army's investigation report is over 200 pages. 13 Investigates received a heavily redacted version. It does not state for how long Frankowski was not wearing a seatbelt. EMS first prioritized getting the remaining crew members from the helicopter. First, they grabbed Gracia, Pratt, and Luna. They were moved to the road not far from where the crash happened. The report says EMS evaluated Luna, but he had too many injuries for them to try and perform life-saving measures. Then first responders started to perform CPR on Gracia and Frankowski. Pratt was breathing on his own. An ambulance took him to a nearby hospital. Gracia did not respond to CPR efforts. Crews continued to work on Frankowski. The report says she had a weak pulse. She was airlifted to a level 1 trauma center, but the attending physician declared her dead shortly after arriving to the ER.
The Army's investigation report lists the total cost of the crash, over $27 million. That includes $5 million for the helicopter, another $2 million in damages to the helicopter, another few million for injury costs, and much more. Reporting for 13 Investigates, I'm Tessa Bentulin.
Tessa, thank you. We've posted the full report online. To read it for yourself, you can just head to our website, WNYT.com.